Elaburu, Elaboye, Elaboshishe. Greetings, happy new day, happy evening, wherever we are in the world. I greet you. A topic that it may seem like a very uncomfortable topic in this tradition, but one that is absolutely necessary for us to explore in a mature, responsible, and respectful vibration. And that is the topic of sexual attraction to one's godparents, because it does happen. And it happens no matter the gender, it happens no matter the sexual orientation. And I don't think that it's anything that we should shame our followers, godchildren, Awofa and Omoawo about. I don't think that we should be shaming them. But I do think that it's absolutely necessary to develop and or acquire the skills to be able to have these conversations on the front end. It is not uncommon for an attraction to develop towards a person who is expressing care, nurturing, and love. It may also be that our spiritual father or our spiritual mother actually is a physically attractive person, may actually have an authentic and organic sex appeal. But let me tell you what it really is. There is an ashe on the godparent. Some of you might wonder, what is an ashe? An ashe is a mystical power, a mystical force on the godparent. And it may have come on the godparent by birth. They may have inherited it from their bloodline. It also could be as a result of various spiritual things the godparent has been through or exposed to for the purpose of the work that they must do. If you are a godparent and one of your godchildren or your clients or your awo starts to express traits or signs of physical attraction, it's really important to consult with your own colleagues, your trusted and professional colleagues, your trusted, primarily really before your colleagues, your trusted and professional elders. But in some cases, some of our colleagues are our elders as well. But it's our responsibility to consult with our elders and our trusted colleagues if such a thing occurs. More likely than not, a recommendation to consult with Ifá or do advanced level spiritual inquiry, pertaining to the situation may even be advised. It highly likely will be advised. From there needs to be an arrangement where a conversation can be had with the Omoawo or the Awofa. And this does not need to happen one-on-one because so many reasons. Many people are coming to us and they have not had the attention given to their areas that are wounded, traumas that they may have. Many of them are not being seen by a mental health professional. And many of them, I'm going to say many of them, actually do have areas what we call blind spots. And you don't want to be in a situation where unintentionally you are in a session one-on-one with an Omoawo or an Awofa, a learner student or a client, and having this conversation, because this conversation could be misinterpreted. It could be misinterpreted. There can be any number of defense mechanisms that go up that manifest in the form of denial, projection, etc., etc. And when it comes down to it, it will be the priest's word against the client, the learner student, the awofa, or the omoawo. And every time it is going to be the priest. Every time. it is going to be the priest who is going to be on the receiving end of accountability, because you're the one in the position of power. You're the authority figure. And so it's going to bring into question your practice, your character. It's best to have another person present when having a conversation about potential or explicit sexual attraction. Behaviors such as behaviors that will fall under the category of flirtation, making comments that might be sexually inappropriate touching. As godparents from our lineage, we are extremely careful. The Aresa lineage, we are extremely careful about physical touch. Extremely careful about physical touch. Many people desire that, and it's innocent. They want a hug. They want a pat on the shoulder, a rub on the back. There are even ceremonies and rituals in this tradition that require physical touch. But in those instances, there are usually a multitude of other people who are present. It's not one on one. I'm speaking from a priest perspective now. A conversation needs to be had with the learner student, the awofa, or the omoawo, or the client, and it needs to be respectful. Some skills are involved here. Some skills are definitely involved here. Wording is everything. Tone is everything. Eye contact is everything. Timing is everything. The skills I cannot impart in this video. That would need to be a one-on-one conversation with me if you are a senior priest or a chief priest or a priest at the novice level and you find yourself in situations like these. You need to consult with me one-on-one, because that's not technique that I can share in this video. It's a lot more intricate than just spewing out some advice. I need context. I need information about you, the priest, in order to be able to help you navigate which skills might be appropriate, which techniques might be most appropriate to support your unique situation. Nonetheless, a person does need to be present. Timing is everything, wording is everything, tone is everything, eye contact and body language is everything, and actual skills. Actually having some type of healthy, efficient, professional communication skills, mature communication skills is going to be absolutely necessary. And so that's that. But these things must be done in the context of non-shaming, non-guilting, but also in the instance where an awofa, an omoawo, or a client is insistent upon a sexual attraction, loving firmness is also going to be required. Remember, you're not doing this one-on-one. You must have someone else present, at least one or two people present. At least one or two people present. You must, if it's face to face, you must have the door open. You cannot have a closed door. You have no idea what's in the mind of that client, that awofa, that omoawo, or that learner student. You don't know what they may interpret various happenings as. You do not know that. You may be assuming the best, but I don't advise assuming anything. I advise taking preventative measures, because you're talking about people's lives, including your own as a senior priest or chief priest. You're talking about the reputation, not only yourself, but also the reputation of that learner student, the awofa, the omoawo, the apprentice, the client. You're talking about their reputation as well. If you have a temple or a family, you're also talking about the reputation of your temple, your family, your community, and theirs as well. And if you have another job, potentially the jeopardization of your career. And so preventative, well thought out, intentional, supporting methods and interventions and preventative measures are going to be absolutely necessary to think out on the front end. There can be no alcohol involved. There can be no smoking of any kind involved. We're talking about professionalism here. These priests who you all are coming into contact with, who find it completely appropriate to create a Western culture or an African culture or whatever wherever in the world the culture is, of bringing these things into the priesthood, that is not in alignment with traditional Isheshe, Yoruba, West African spirituality. I am telling you that for sure, definitively, and without a doubt. If those things are things that you're going to do or that you insist upon doing, you should not be bringing those behaviors to the relationship with you and your client, you and your Amwawo, you and your Awofa, you and your learner student, especially in a sensitive situation such as the one I'm speaking of and focusing on here today, which is sexual attraction. It is not uncommon for that to happen. As a senior chief priest, you should never exploit that. You should never exploit that. You should never play into that. You should never be telling a learner, student, client, or Awofa or Omoawo that Ifá has told you that you need to scoop them up into your, bed. As an Awofa, an Omoawo, a learner, student, a client, you should be watchful. You should be mindful. There are some people who are looking for that. And I'm talking to the senior priest and the chief priest and the novice priest. There are some people who are going to be coming to you. They are looking for that type of affection. And to you, to them, you spiritually, at least for a moment, you're safe, which is why they came to you. They came to you because they feel a safeness. They came to you because they feel some degree of trust. That should never be exploited. You have to learn how to manage sexual attraction coming from clients, Omoawo, Awofa, and learner students. You cannot be so sexually depraved or insecure that you will, in any way, shape, or form, allow yourself to be open, vulnerable to, preying upon, whether advertently or inadvertently, are falling into, playing into sexual attraction to someone who's coming to you for help. Most times, these clients, these learner students, these Omoawo and Awofa, they are not all the way healed. They're not all the way whole. They're coming to you because they have problems or a problem that they are seeking support on. Most times, they're coming to you in a state of emotional vulnerability. Emotional vulnerability, spiritual vulnerability, psychological vulnerability. It's not uncommon and it's not unusual for them to develop a sexual attraction, but it is up to you, the senior priest, the chief priest, the novice priest. It is up to you, the priest in training. It is up to you. It is up to you to prepare yourself for such occurrences and to position yourself professionally, maturely, and appropriately to have an understanding that a lot of these people coming to you need your help and your clarity and your objectivity, not for you to convolute the relationship with them. Convoluting the relationship, introducing a sexual attraction into the dynamic, further complicating their pre-existing dilemma. You have to have a different degree of love and care, discernment, restraint, control, self-regulation. They are not to be shamed. They are not to be guilt tripped. They are not to be taken advantage of. They need our help. And if you feel as though they are not a good candidate, a well-matched candidate for your services, or you feel as though your attraction to them is just too powerful, that you don't know if you can control yourself, you need to refer them out. Refer them out. Or if you have senior priests within your community or within your temple whom can be with you while you work with them, let them take the lead and you serve as an advisor. If you can remove yourself from the situation physically altogether, if you have a reciprocal sexual attraction and you just cannot control yourself, I would even recommend you put a pause on your services and you go get some attention that you obviously need. As for the client, the learner student, the awofar, the omoawo, if they are insistent upon a sexual attraction and you feel as though they are not open to being redirected after you professionally and maturely and lovingly and considerately set the appropriate boundaries and make it very clear verbally as well as physically and in all other respects what the dynamic is and what the dynamic is not. If that person in front of you refuses to accept that and be redirected, then you might not, it's highly likely that you cannot see that person. You're going to have to refer that person out because they might need additional services. They may not even be able to openly, they may not even be able to have a spirit or a mentality or a heart of openness to be able to receive the wisdom, the guidance that you're offering to them because they are so clouded in their own vision. They are so clouded in their own perspectives and they want to sexualize this relationship. You cannot see them. You must refer them out. They cannot stay around. In addition to that, it is not always the case. However, it very well can be the case that their behavior is generalizable. Meaning, if they're projecting these things onto you, there's highly likely the possibility that they could also potentially project inappropriate sexual energy upon others within your community. And so you also have a duty to protect the community from someone who needs that kind of support, attention, love, and care. Again, this is not shaming the person. This is not ostracizing the person. This is attending to the person so that the individual gets the help that they need. I guarantee you, as a clinician myself, that you will be able to, if you were in such a position to talk with a person and explore their history, you would be able to find and identify several other areas where sexual boundaries have either led to or contributed to dynamics, dilemmas, issues, or confusion in that person's life. They need assistance so that they can stop doing whatever they're doing or learn whatever they need to learn, identify whatever they need to identify to be able to raise their awareness and raise their levels of enlightenment about where they themselves may be walking or living or thinking or emoting out of alignment. Our duty, our job, our obligation as senior priests, as chief priests, is to help them, not take advantage of them, not hurt them further. And sometimes not being able to be of service to them may be interpreted as hurting them. They may interpret that as rejection, which is why you need skills to have the conversation. You actually need skills, some techniques, some communication techniques to be able to have this conversation in a loving way and also know what to do after that conversation has been had. You cannot be so desperate for their patronage as a priest that you don't want to lose them as a client or as a student. It is beyond money. It's beyond money. You're talking about somebody's destiny. You're talking about somebody's life. And if they have children, spouse, career, you're talking about every aspect of their livelihood. It has to be about 100% plus their well being, their healing. You have to be somebody different to them. You can't be the person who does what everyone else does. They may be a very persuasive person. You cannot be who other people were and play into that and exploit that and convolute the relationship. You have to be different. You have to be a demonstration, a living model of what appropriate love, care, nurturing, and support looks like. I should pause here. As you can see, it's an area that I'm very passionate about. And I'm very passionate about this tradition. And I don't want the things that have tainted the fabric of our tradition in Africa or globally to continue to be things that hurt our tradition. Because what hurts our tradition hurts our unity, it hurts our camaraderie, it hurts our togetherness, it hurts the reputation of this tradition. It imposes additional trauma, conflicts, and disharmony upon us as a people globally. I'm talking to men and women, no matter the sexual orientation, no matter the age, no matter where in the world we were born, no matter our level of experience as priests and as learner students, Awofa, Omoawo, or clients. I'm speaking from my heart to us all. I'm speaking from my experience to us all. We all have to take accountability. We all have a duty. We all have a responsibility to our Creator, to our ancestors, to our Ori, to our Ekbe, to the mothers, to our people, to ourselves, to our own destiny. And I'm also speaking to us from the perspective of individuals who are coming to us with these imbalances, these misperceptions, and these traumas and these wounds. I'm speaking as well on their behalf. I'm speaking on their behalf. Please let us all do the divinely aligned, harmonious, unifying, authentically loving, and healing right things. Elaburu, elaboye, elaboshishe.